Maya Chen stared at the acceptance letter from Riverside High School, her hands trembling slightly. The fancy letterhead seemed to mock her with its pristine borders and elegant font. After 3 years of homeschooling while traveling the galaxy as humanity's youngest military advisor, she was finally going back to normal teenage life. If only normal teenagers had classified memories of single-handedly orchestrating the defeat of the Zephyrian Armada. The irony wasn't lost on her. At 15, she had stood before the Galactic Council and convinced 7 alien species to form an alliance against the Zephyrians. She had decoded their battle strategies, identified weaknesses in their plasma shields, and developed countermeasures that saved billions of lives across 12-star systems. The media had called her humanity's greatest tactical genius since Napoleon. Yet here she was, terrified of walking into a high school cafeteria. Her mother, Dr. Sarah Chun, knocked on her bedroom door. "Maya, honey, are you ready for your first day?" Maya quickly stuffed the letter into her backpack, right next to the encrypted tablet containing her military commendations. "Yeah, just finishing up." The drive to school was quiet except for the news playing on the radio. The anchor was discussing the recent peace treaty with the Zephyrians, mentioning how an unnamed human strategist had been instrumental in their defeat. Maya slouched deeper into her seat. The government had been very clear about maintaining her anonymity. To the world, she was just another teenager who had been privately tutored due to her parents. Work abroad. Riverside High School loomed before her like a concrete fortress. Students streamed through the main entrance, chattering and laughing in groups that seemed to have been formed years ago. Maya watched them through the car window, noting their social formations with the same analytical mind that had once studied enemy fleet movements. The popular kids claimed the front steps like they were establishing territorial dominance. The theater students gathered near the drama department poster, their animated gestures reminding her of diplomatic negotiations. The athletes moved in tight formations, their coordination rivaling that of military units. "Remember," her mother said softly, "you're just a normal student now. Try to make friends. Join clubs. Be a teenager. Normal." Maya almost laughed. She had seen the birth of stars through the viewport of a dreadnought. She had negotiated ceasefires with beings whose blood was liquid mercury. She had saved the galaxy before she could legally drive a car. But sure, she'd try to be normal. The hallways smelled like cleaning products and teenage anxiety. Maya clutched her class schedule like a battle plan, navigating through clusters of students with the same precision she had once used to navigate asteroid fields. Her first class was Advanced Physics with Mr. Patterson, a subject that should have been easy considering she had helped design weapons that bent spacetime. She slipped into a seat near the back, hoping to blend into the background. The other students filed in, their conversations washing over her like white noise. They talked about weekend parties, upcoming dances, and who was dating whom. Maya found herself analyzing their social dynamics, mapping relationships and hierarchies with unconscious military precision. "All right, class," Mr. Patterson announced, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Today we're starting our unit on theoretical physics. Can anyone tell me what they know about faster-than-light travel?" Several hands shot up. Maya kept hers down, even though she could have explained the mathematical principles behind hyperspace jumps in 3 different alien languages. She listened as her classmates offered textbook definitions and speculative theories, none of them knowing that FTL travel was not only possible, but that Maya had personally used it dozens of times. "Interesting theories," Mr. Patterson said with a smile. "But the truth is, we're probably centuries away from achieving anything like that. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical." Maya bit her tongue. The truth was that humanity had already cracked FTL travel, thanks largely to technology reverse-engineered from captured Zephyrian ships. Ships that Maya had helped capture by predicting their patrol routes and identifying their blind spots. But that information was classified at levels so high that even most government officials didn't know about it. The class continued with discussions of theoretical wormholes and hypothetical time dilation. Maya found herself drifting, remembering the real thing. She recalled the first time she had seen a jump gate activate, the way space seemed to fold in on itself like origami made of starlight. She remembered the weightless feeling of hyperspace, where time moved differently and the normal laws of physics became mere suggestions. A paper airplane hit her desk, snapping her back to reality. She looked up to see a boy with messy brown hair grinning at her from 2 seats over. He had drawn a small smiley face on the plane's wing. "Earth to new girl," he whispered. "You looked like you were spacing out pretty hard there." Maya forced a smile. "Sorry, just thinking." "I'm Jake," he said, leaning closer. "Jake Morrison. You must be Maya Chun, right? I saw your name on the new student list." "That's me," Maya replied, wondering how much background checking the school had done. Her official records listed her as the daughter of agricultural researchers who had spent the last few years working on terraforming projects in remote locations. It wasn't entirely a lie, just a creative interpretation of the truth. "Cool. Where are you from?" "I mean, before here." Maya paused. "How do you explain that you're from everywhere and nowhere?" That home was a series of military bases scattered across the galaxy, each one more advanced and more secret than the last. "We moved around a lot," she said finally. "My parents' work took us to some pretty remote places." "That sounds awesome," Jake said. "I've lived in the same house my whole life. Most exciting thing that ever happened here was when Mrs. Peterson's cat got stuck on the school roof last spring." Maya nodded politely, thinking about how the most exciting thing in her recent life was probably the time she had to evacuate a space station before it was consumed by a collapsing star. The cat rescue story seemed somehow more relatable. The bell rang, signaling the end of class. Students began packing up their books and heading for the door. Maya gathered her things slowly, still adjusting to the simple rhythm of high school life. No emergency briefings, no urgent tactical decisions, no fate of civilizations hanging in the balance. Just teenagers moving from one classroom to another, worried about nothing more serious than pop quizzes and lunch money. As she walked toward her next class, Maya caught her reflection in a hallway window. She looked like any other 15-year-old girl, complete with the slightly overwhelmed expression of a new student. No one could see the tactical genius behind her dark eyes, the same eyes that had stared down alien warlords and calculated victory from the jaws of defeat. Maybe that was for the best. Maybe being normal would be its own kind of adventure. Maya's second class was American history with Ms. Rodriguez, a subject that felt surreal given that Maya had recently helped make galactic history. She found a seat in the middle row, trying to strike a balance between invisible and engaged. The classroom walls were covered with timeline posters showing major events in human civilization. Ending with the moon landing in 1969, Maya suppressed a smile, knowing that humanity had established permanent bases on 17 different moons by now. Information that wouldn't be declassified for another decade. Miss Rodriguez was discussing World War II, explaining how intelligence gathering and strategic planning had been crucial to the Allied victory. Maya found herself nodding along, remembering her own experience with military intelligence. The parallels were striking, even if the scale was vastly different. Where human generals had decoded enemy transmissions, Maya had learned to interpret the electromagnetic signatures of alien thought patterns. Where resistance fighters had sabotaged supply lines, she had calculated the optimal points to disrupt Zephyrian fleet formations. "The key to victory," Ms. Rodriguez explained, "was understanding your enemy better than they understood themselves. Intelligence isn't just about gathering information. It's about seeing patterns that others miss." Maya's hand moved unconsciously to her backpack, where the encrypted tablet held detailed analyses of 17 different alien species. She had files on their military doctrines, cultural weaknesses, and psychological profiles. The Zephyrians, for instance, were brilliant tacticians but terrible at adapting to unexpected strategies. They followed patterns like robots, which had been their ultimate downfall. After class, Maya headed to the cafeteria with growing anxiety. She had faced down alien warlords, but the prospect of sitting alone at lunch filled her with dread. The cafeteria was a maze of social hierarchies, each table representing a different faction in the complex ecosystem of high school politics. She grabbed a tray and moved through the lunch line, selecting foods that seemed safe and familiar. No exotic alien cuisines here, just pizza, salad, and chocolate milk. As she turned to survey the seating options, she spotted Jake from physics class waving her over to a table near the windows. "Maya, over here," he called out. She walked over, grateful for the invitation. Jake was sitting with 3 other students, a tall girl with curly red hair, a boy wearing a Star Trek t-shirt, and another girl who was sketching in a notebook while eating. "Everyone, this is Maya," Jake announced. "Maya, meet the outcasts." "Speak for yourself," the redhead said with a grin. "I'm Zoe, student body treasurer and captain of the debate team." "Hardly an outcast." "I'm Marcus," said the boy in the Star Trek shirt. "I run the science fiction club, which currently has a membership of 4, including you if you're interested." The girl with the notebook looked up briefly. "Emma, I don't run anything, I just draw." Maya sat down, feeling more at ease than she had all day. These students reminded her of some of her favorite people from the military, the ones who thought outside the box and weren't afraid to be different. "So what's your story?" Zoe asked, diving straight to the point. "Jake said you traveled a lot." Maya had rehearsed this cover story dozens of times, but it still felt strange to tell it. "My parents are agricultural researchers. We spent time studying crop development in remote locations, mostly overseas. Lots of moving around, not much time for traditional schooling." "That's so cool," Marcus said, his eyes lighting up. "Did you ever see anything weird out there? Like unexplained phenomena or strange lights in the sky?" Maya nearly choked on her pizza. If only he knew how much unexplained phenomena she had not only seen but personally dealt with. "Nothing too exciting," she managed. "Mostly just a lot of dirt and plant samples." "Marcus thinks aliens are real," Emma said without looking up from her drawing. "He's been trying to prove it since middle school." "They have to be real," Marcus insisted. "The universe is too big for us to be alone. And there's been so much weird activity in the news lately. All these classified military projects, unexplained energy signatures picked up by radio telescopes. Government officials giving cryptic interviews about new developments in space exploration." Maya's blood ran cold. Marcus was more observant than she had given him credit for. The government had been working overtime to keep the alien conflict secret, but apparently some information was leaking through anyway. "You think the government is hiding something?" she asked carefully. "I know they are," Marcus said confidently. "My dad works for NASA, and he's been staying late a lot recently. Super secretive about it, too. Plus, did you see that press conference last month where the Secretary of Defense basically admitted that we've had encounters with non-terrestrial intelligence?" Zoe rolled her eyes. "Marcus, correlation doesn't equal causation. Just because weird stuff is happening doesn't mean it's aliens." "But what if it is?" Marcus countered. "What if there's this whole secret world that we don't know about? What if there are people out there, maybe even kids our age, who are involved in something way bigger than high school drama?" Maya felt like the universe was playing a cosmic joke on her. Here was Marcus, essentially describing her exact situation, while she sat there pretending to be a normal teenager. The irony was almost painful. "I think," she said slowly, "that if something like that were happening, the people involved would probably want to keep it secret for good reasons. Maybe to protect their families or to prevent panic." "Exactly," Marcus exclaimed. "Which is why we need to be paying attention. The truth is out there, we just have to look for it." The conversation moved on to other topics, but Maya found herself studying Marcus more carefully. His enthusiasm reminded her of some of the younger intelligence officers she had worked with, the ones who saw patterns everywhere and never stopped asking questions. It was both endearing and terrifying after lunch. Maya had English literature with Mr. Thompson. The class was discussing The Outsider by Albert Camus, a book about alienation and the human condition. Maya found the themes hitting uncomfortably close to home. She was literally an outsider. Someone who didn't belong in normal society because of experiences that couldn't be shared or understood. The protagonist feels disconnected from the world around him, Mr. Thompson explained. He goes through the motions of normal life, but he can't relate to the concerns and values of the people around him. A student raised her hand. But why doesn't he just try harder to fit in? Perhaps, Mr. Thompson said, because once you've seen beyond the veil of ordinary existence, it's impossible to pretend that the veil is all there is. Maya stared at her book, feeling as though the words were speaking directly to her. She had seen beyond the veil, literally and figuratively. She had witnessed the vast complexity of galactic civilization, the delicate balance between species, the constant dance of diplomacy and warfare that played out among the stars. How was she supposed to care about pop quizzes and homecoming themes when she knew that humanity's survival depended on maintaining dozens of careful alliances with alien species? The bell rang and students began filing out. Maya packed her books slowly, lost in thought. As she headed toward the door, Mr. Thompson called her name. "Maya, could you stay behind for a moment?" She approached his desk nervously, wondering if she had somehow given herself away. "I noticed you seemed particularly engaged during our discussion today," he said kindly. "That's unusual for a new student. Most kids take a while to warm up to Camus." "It just resonated with me," Maya replied honestly. "I imagine it would, given your background." "It must be difficult, adjusting to a new school after so much travel and unconventional education." Maya nodded, grateful for his understanding. "If you ever need someone to talk to, my office hours are Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Sometimes it helps to have an adult who understands that not everyone fits the typical mold." As Maya left the classroom, she felt a strange mix of gratitude and loneliness. Mr. Thompson's kindness was genuine, but even he couldn't possibly understand the true extent of her situation. She was walking through her days like an actor playing a role, pretending to be someone she wasn't, hiding secrets that could change the course of human history. The final bell of the day rang, and Maya headed toward her locker. Around her, students chattered excitedly about after-school activities, weekend plans, and social dramas that seemed both trivial and impossibly complex. She had saved the galaxy, but she still didn't know how to navigate the social landscape of high school. As she gathered her books, Maya made a decision. She would try to be normal, as her mother had suggested. She would join clubs, make friends, and pretend that her biggest worry was passing algebra. But deep down, she knew that normalcy was just another mission, and like all missions, it would require careful planning and flawless execution. Maya's first week at Riverside High passed in a blur of awkward introductions and careful lies. She had joined the science fiction club as Marcus had hoped, and was already being pressured to attend the upcoming fall dance. The idea of dancing with boys her own age felt stranger than negotiating with the crystalline beings from Proxima Centauri, who communicated through harmonic vibrations. It was Friday afternoon, when her carefully constructed normal life began to unravel. Maya was walking to her locker when she overheard two seniors talking in hushed voices near the chemistry lab. "Did you see the news about those weird electromagnetic readings they detected over the Pacific?" One of them said. "My brother works at NOAA, and he said they've never seen anything like it." "Probably just solar flare activity," the other replied dismissively. Maya's blood turned to ice. She recognized those electromagnetic signatures from the briefings. They were the telltale signs of a Zephyrian scout ship's cloaking system failing. But the peace treaty had been signed months ago. There shouldn't be any Zephyrian vessels in Earth's solar system. She pulled out her phone and quickly typed a coded message to her emergency contact. A simple text that would look like a message to her mom but would actually alert the military intelligence team monitoring her communications. Within minutes, her phone buzzed with a response that made her stomach drop. "Family dinner tonight at 7. Don't be late." "Mom, it was code for an emergency briefing." Something was very, very wrong. The rest of the school day was torture. Maya tried to focus on her classes, but her mind kept racing through possibilities. Had the peace treaty been broken? Was there a rogue faction of Zephyrians operating independently? Or worse, was this the beginning of an invasion by a completely different alien species? At 3:30, Maya practically ran to the school parking lot where her mother was waiting with the car running, Dr. Sarah. Chun's face was grim, her usual warm smile replaced by the tense expression Maya remembered from the worst days of the war. "How bad is it?" Maya asked as soon as she got in the car. "Bad enough that General Morrison is flying in from Colorado," her mother replied, pulling out of the school parking lot with practiced efficiency. "We've been monitoring unusual activity for the past 72 hours. 3 separate incidents of electromagnetic anomalies, all with signatures consistent with advanced alien technology." Maya's tactical mind immediately began analyzing the data. 3 incidents. That suggests either multiple ships or a single ship making repeated approaches. Are we dealing with the Zephyrians? That's what we need to determine. The signatures are similar but not identical. It could be Zephyrian technology that's been modified, or it could be something entirely new. They drove in silence for 20 minutes, leaving the suburban sprawl of Riverside and entering a more industrial area on the outskirts of town. Maya had been here before during her initial debriefings after the war. The warehouse looked ordinary from the outside, but beneath it lay one of the most sophisticated intelligence facilities on Earth. The underground briefing room was exactly as Maya remembered it. All steel and glass with holographic displays showing tactical information. General Morrison was already there, along with Dr. Patel from Xenobiology and Colonel Torres from Strategic Operations. Maya felt a familiar mix of excitement and anxiety as she took her seat at the conference table. "Good to see you again, Maya," General Morrison said with a tired smile. "I wish it were under better circumstances." "What's the situation, sir?" Maya asked, slipping easily back into military protocol. Dr. Patel activated the main holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of Earth's solar system. 3 red markers pulsed at different locations around the outer planets. 72 hours ago, deep space monitoring stations detected the first anomaly here, near Jupiter's orbit, Dr. Patel explained, pointing to one of the markers. The signature was consistent with Zephyrian stealth technology, but there were several unusual variations. 24 hours later, we detected a second signature near Saturn. Then yesterday, a third near Uranus. Maya studied the pattern, her mind automatically calculating trajectories and possibilities. The spacing suggests a survey pattern. Someone is mapping our outer system defenses. "That's our assessment as well," Colonel Torres agreed. "But here's what's really troubling. According to our intelligence network, all known Zephyrian vessels are accounted for and currently within their designated territorial boundaries. So either the Zephyrians are lying about their fleet positions," Maya said slowly, "or we're dealing with someone new." "Or option 3, General Morrison added grimly. "The technology has been stolen or reproduced by another party." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. During the war, she had learned about dozens of alien species that were still unknown to the general public. Some were peaceful, some were neutral, and some were actively hostile toward any species that developed faster than light travel. If one of the hostile species had acquired Zephyrian technology... Have you made contact with the Zephyrian leadership?" Maya asked. "We tried," Colonel Torres replied. "Ambassador Theises claims complete ignorance of any unauthorized vessel activity. Either he's telling the truth, or the Zephyrians have become much better liars since the peace talks." Maya leaned back in her chair, processing the information. Ambassador Theises was someone she knew well from the peace negotiations. He was honorable but politically naive, not the type to orchestrate a complex deception. If he claimed ignorance, he probably genuinely didn't know what was happening. "I need to see the full spectral analysis of those electromagnetic signatures," Maya said. "And I want communication logs from all our deep space monitoring stations for the past week." Dr. Patel looked to General Morrison, who nodded. Within minutes, Maya was surrounded by holographic displays showing energy wavelengths, frequency modulations, and communication intercepts. She studied the data with the same intensity she had once brought to analyzing enemy battle formations. "There," she said suddenly, pointing to a subtle pattern in the frequency modulations. Do you see this rhythmic variation in the stealth field harmonics? The adults leaned closer, following her finger as she traced the pattern across multiple datasets. This isn't Zephyrian technology, Maya continued, her voice growing more confident. It's based on Zephyrian principles, but the implementation is different. Cruder in some ways, but also more aggressive. Look at how the stealth field interacts with local gravitational fields. The Zephyrians would never design it this way because it creates detectable ripples. So what are we looking at? General Morrison asked. Maya was quiet for a long moment, her mind racing through her extensive knowledge of alien species and their capabilities. Then, slowly, a terrible possibility began to form. I think, she said carefully, we might be looking at Korthony technology. The room fell silent. Dr. Patel's face went pale, and Colonel Torres muttered something under his breath that Maya couldn't catch. The Korthony were supposed to have been contained in the outer spiral, General Morrison said finally. The Galactic Council assured us that they wouldn't be a threat to developing civilizations. Maybe the Galactic Council was wrong, Maya replied. Or maybe something has changed in the political situation out there. The Korthony were one of the most dangerous species Maya had encountered during her time as a military advisor. They were technological scavengers, taking the best innovations from other species and adapting them for warfare. They had been contained in a distant part of the galaxy after a devastating war with the Galactic Council. But if they had somehow broken free? We need to assume worst-case scenario, Maya said, her voice taking on the authority that had once commanded the attention of alien admirals. If the Korthony have acquired Zephyrian stealth technology and are conducting reconnaissance of our system, then they're probably planning an invasion. How long do we have? Colonel Torres asked. Maya studied the data again, calculating based on known Korthony tactics and capabilities. If they're following standard procedure, they'll want at least 2 weeks of surveillance data before committing to an attack. That gives us maybe 10 days to prepare. Prepare for what? Dr. Patel asked. We can't reveal the existence of the alien threat to the public. The panic alone would be devastating. We don't have to reveal everything, Maya said, her mind already working through possibilities. But we need to get our defensive systems online and coordinate with our alien allies. The Zephyrians might be willing to help if they understand that the Korthony represent a mutual threat. General Morrison stood up, his expression grim but determined. I'll contact the Joint Chiefs and brief the President, Dr. Patel. I want you to reach out to our xenobiology contacts and confirm Maya's analysis. Colonel Torres, start putting together contingency plans for civilian protection. What about me? Maya asked. The general looked at her with something that might have been pity. You go back to high school, Maya. Try to have a normal weekend. If we're right about this timeline, you might not get another chance for a while. As the meeting broke up, Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was 15 years old, and once again, the fate of her species might depend on her ability to think faster and fight, smarter than enemies who had been waging war for millennia. Monday morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Maya sat in her first period physics class, listening to Mr. Patterson explain gravitational waves while her encrypted tablet, hidden in her backpack, buzzed with urgent military updates every few minutes. The Korthony reconnaissance had intensified over the weekend, with 2 more electromagnetic signatures detected near Mars orbit. She was trying to focus on the lesson when Marcus leaned over and whispered, "Did you hear about the weird lights people saw over Colorado Springs last night?" Maya's heart skipped a beat. Colorado Springs was home to NORAD and the Air Force Academy. If the Korthony were conducting surveillance there, it meant they had identified Earth's primary military installations. Probably just military exercises, she whispered back, hoping her voice sounded casual. Yeah, but my cousin posted a video on social media before it got taken down. The lights were moving in formation, way too precise for conventional aircraft. And they were completely silent. Maya made a mental note to check the tactical reports during lunch. If the Korthony were getting bold enough to conduct visible reconnaissance over military bases, The timeline might be accelerating faster than expected. The morning passed in a haze of divided attention. During English class, while discussing the themes of alienation in The Outsider, Maya received an encrypted text that made her blood run cold. Pattern analysis confirms hostile intent. Recommend immediate defensive preparations. Your expertise needed ASAP. She excused herself to the bathroom and called her emergency contact number. Her handler, Agent Richardson, answered on the first ring. "Maya, we need you here now," he said without preamble. "The Korthani aren't just conducting reconnaissance anymore. We intercepted a transmission this morning." "What kind of transmission?" Maya asked, keeping her voice low even though the bathroom was empty. "Invasion coordinates. They're targeting major population centers. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, London, Tokyo. We're looking at a coordinated global assault." Maya felt the familiar calm that came over her during crisis situations. Her personal fears evaporated, replaced by cold tactical thinking. "How long do we have?" "Best estimate is 72 hours. Maybe less." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Mia said, already planning how to leave school without arousing suspicion. "Maya," Agent Richardson said before she could hang up, "there's something else. We've lost contact with the Galactic Council. All communication channels are dark." The line went dead, leaving Maya alone in the bathroom with a growing sense of dread. If the Galactic Council was unreachable, it meant one of two things. Either they were under attack themselves, or they had decided that Earth was expendable and had chosen not to intervene. She returned to class and quietly gathered her things. When the teacher looked questioningly at her, she held up her phone and mouthed, "Family emergency." It wasn't entirely a lie. The underground facility was buzzing with activity when Maya arrived. Military personnel moved with urgent purpose, and multiple holographic displays showed tactical data from around the globe. General Morrison met her at the elevator, his face grim. "The situation has escalated beyond our worst-case scenarios," he said as they walked toward the main briefing room. "We've detected at least 40 Korthani vessels positioned throughout the outer solar system. They're using some kind of quantum stealth technology that makes them nearly impossible to track." 40 ships, Maya repeated, her mind automatically calculating the implications. "That's not just a raiding party. That's a full invasion fleet." "Gets worse," General Morrison continued. "Our xenobiology team has been analyzing Korthani communication intercepts. They're not just planning to conquer Earth, they're planning to harvest it." Maya stopped walking. "Harvest?" "Strip mine the entire planet for resources, then move on. According to intelligence from previous Korthani invasions, they typically leave nothing behind except empty rock." The briefing room was packed with military officials, scientists, and intelligence analysts. Maya took her place at the main tactical station, feeling the weight of expectation from everyone in the room. On the main screen, a three-dimensional map showed the positions of known Korthani vessels. Red dots arranged in a perfect sphere around Earth's solar system. "They're using a classic encirclement strategy," Maya observed, studying the formation. "But there's something odd about the positioning. They're maintaining too much distance for an immediate assault." Dr. Patel nodded grimly. "Our analysis suggests they're waiting for something. We think they're expecting reinforcements." "How many reinforcements?" Maya asked. "Unknown. But based on Korthani historical patterns, potentially hundreds of additional vessels." Maya studied the tactical display, her mind working through possibilities. The Korthani were methodical in their approach to conquest, but that methodical nature was also their weakness. They followed predictable patterns, which meant their strategies could be anticipated and countered. "Show me their communication network," she said. A new holographic display appeared, showing the flow of encrypted signals between the Korthani vessels. Maya analyzed the pattern, noting the hierarchical structure and identifying what appeared to be command ships. "There," she said, pointing to a cluster of vessels near Jupiter. "That's their command and control hub. If we could disrupt their communications at the source—" "With what?" Colonel Torres interjected. "Our entire space-capable military consists of 3 experimental fighters and an orbital. defense platform that's still in beta testing. Maya was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she turned to General Morrison with a determined expression. We need to contact the Zephyrians. Not through official diplomatic channels, but directly. I know people in their military command structure who might be willing to help, especially if they understand that the Korthani represent a threat to everyone. Maya! We've lost contact with all official alien representatives, General Morrison reminded her. Then we go unofficial, Maya replied. I know frequencies and encryption codes that aren't part of the standard diplomatic protocols. Emergency military channels that the Korthani might not know about. She turned to the communications officer. I need access to the deep space transmitter array, and I need it configured for multi-frequency transmission across 17 different harmonic spectrums. The next hour was a blur of technical preparations and careful message crafting. Maya worked with the communications team to encode a message that would be recognizable to Zephyrian military commanders, but invisible to Korthani interceptors. She drew on her knowledge of Zephyrian honor codes and military traditions, crafting a plea that would appeal to their sense of duty and shared history. As the message transmitted into space, Maya felt a familiar mixture of hope and anxiety. The Zephyrians had been honorable allies during the peace negotiations, but asking them to risk their lives for Earth was asking a lot, especially given the political complexities of galactic politics. Now we wait, General Morrison said, settling into a chair beside Maya's workstation. No, Maya replied, her fingers already flying over the tactical interface. Now we plan. Even if the Zephyrians can help, we can't depend on them alone. We need to develop our own strategy for dealing with 40 invasion ships. She pulled up detailed specifications for Korthani vessels, information she had memorized during her previous military service. The aliens were technologically superior in most areas, but their ships had limitations. They required specific fuel types that weren't easily found in Earth's solar system. Their weapons, while powerful, had predictable recharge cycles. And their pilots, while skilled, relied heavily on automated systems that could potentially be hacked or disrupted. I have an idea, Maya said slowly, her mind beginning to form a desperate but potentially workable plan. It's crazy and it probably won't work, but it's the only chance we have. She stood up and walked to the main tactical display, gesturing for everyone's attention. The Korthani think they're fighting primitive humans with minimal space capability, she began. They're expecting easy resistance, probably planning to overwhelm our defenses with sheer numbers. But what if we don't fight the battle they're expecting? She manipulated the display, showing Earth's orbital space and the positions of various satellites and space stations. We have something the Korthani don't expect us to have, complete knowledge of their previous invasion tactics. I've studied their operational patterns, their command structures, their technological limitations. We can't match their firepower, but we might be able to outsmart them. General Morrison leaned forward, intrigued. What are you proposing? Maya's expression was grim but determined. We're going to make them think they've won, right up until the moment we destroy their entire fleet. The room fell silent as Maya began outlining the most audacious military strategy in human history. It was desperate, dangerous, and depended on perfect timing and flawless execution. But as she spoke, laying out each phase of the plan, the people around her began to nod with growing understanding and cautious optimism. They were going to fight aliens with human ingenuity, and Maya Chun, 15-year-old tactical genius, was going to lead them into battle one more time. Maya hadn't slept in 36 hours. The underground facility had become her world, filled with the constant hum of computers and the urgent voices of military personnel implementing her impossible plan. On the main tactical display, 43 Korthani vessels now surrounded Earth's solar system. Their formations tightening like a noose, the plan was audacious in its simplicity. Convince the Korthani that Earth's defenses had been completely destroyed, lure their invasion fleet into a vulnerable position, then use a coordinated strike from hidden human assets and hopefully Zephyrian allies to cripple their command structure. Status report, Maya called out, her voice hoarse from hours of constant coordination. Deception satellites are in position, reported Lieutenant Chun from the communications station. We've successfully convinced the Korthani that our orbital defense platform exploded during their last probe. They think our space-based capabilities are completely neutralized. What about the civilian evacuations? Maya asked. Proceeding under cover of natural disaster preparedness drills, replied Colonel Torres. We've managed to relocate 60% of the population from primary target cities. The media thinks it's an unprecedented earthquake preparedness exercise. Maya nodded grimly. They couldn't evacuate everyone without revealing the truth about the alien threat, but every life saved would matter when the shooting started. Her encrypted tablet buzzed with an incoming message. Maya's heart jumped when she saw the origin code. It was a response from the Zephyrian military. She quickly decoded the transmission, her hands shaking slightly with exhaustion and adrenaline. The message was short and written in the formal, military language she remembered from the peace negotiations. Honor demands assistance to valued allies. Fleet Commander Thizizka dispatching 12 vessels to grid coordinates you provided. Will engage on your signal. May the solar wings carry you to victory. We've got Zephyrian support, Maya announced to the room. 12 ships positioning for flanking maneuvers. General Morrison whistled softly. 12 ships against 43. Still terrible odds. Better than 0 ships against 43, Maya replied. Besides, we're not trying to win a straight fight. We just need to disable their command structure long enough to break their coordination. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Maya worked with teams of engineers and hackers to prepare the most critical element of her plan, a computer virus specifically designed to exploit vulnerabilities in Korthani automated systems. During her previous military service, she had learned that the Korthani relied heavily on AI-assisted navigation and targeting. If they could inject the virus into the enemy command network, it would create enough chaos to level the playing field. The virus would be delivered by a desperate gambit. A modified human satellite disguised as space debris would drift into the Korthani formation and transmit the virus directly into their communication network. It was a one-shot opportunity that required perfect timing and a lot of luck. Maya, Dr. Patel called from his workstation. We're detecting movement in the Korthani formation. Looks like they're beginning their final approach. Maya looked at the tactical display and felt her stomach tighten. The red dots representing enemy vessels were moving inward, their formation shifting from surveillance pattern to attack formation. According to her calculations, they had maybe 6 hours before the shooting started. Status on our hidden assets? She asked. The experimental fighters are fueled and ready, reported Major Williams from the Aerospace Division. Pilots are standing by in the Colorado facility. Orbital platform is powered down but can be brought online in 90 minutes. Zephyrian positions. Fleet Commander Thizizka reports ready for engagement. They're holding position behind Jupiter's magnetic field, invisible to Korthani sensors. Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything they had worked for, everything humanity's future depended on, would be decided in the next few hours. Initiate Phase 1, she ordered. Begin broadcasting the surrender signal. Lieutenant Chin activated a pre-recorded message that would be transmitted on all frequencies. Maya had crafted it carefully, making it sound like a desperate plea from Earth's government offering unconditional surrender. The message included false information about Earth's military capabilities and population centers, designed to draw the Korthani into the trap. Within an hour, the Korthani formation began shifting again. Their ships moved into bombardment positions around Earth's major cities, exactly as Maya had predicted. The aliens were following their standard conquest protocol, accept surrender, then eliminate the population anyway to prevent future resistance. They're taking the bait, Colonel Torres observed. Watching the enemy vessels move into position. Korthani command ship is moving to optimal bombardment range over New York. Perfect, Maya said. That puts them exactly where we want them. Prepare Phase 2? The modified satellite was launched on a trajectory that would look like random space debris to Korthani sensors. Maya watched its progress on the tracking display, her heart pounding as it drifted toward the enemy formation. If the Korthani detected it too early, the entire plan would collapse. "Satellite is approaching transmission range," reported the communications officer. "Virus payload ready for deployment." Maya waited, watching the tactical display with the same intensity she had once brought to analyzing enemy fleet movements. The satellite drifted closer to the Korthani command ship, invisible among the real debris that surrounded Earth's orbital space. "Deploy virus," Maya ordered. The satellite transmitted its deadly payload directly into the Korthani communication network. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then slowly, Maya began to see signs that the virus was working. Enemy vessel formations started showing minor inconsistencies. Communication traffic between ships became erratic. "It's working," Dr. Patel said excitedly. "Their coordination is breaking down?" "Phase 3, Maya announced. "Signal the Zephyrians. Bring our fighters online." This is it. The next few minutes unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance of destruction. 12 Zephyrian warships emerged from behind Jupiter, their weapons already charging. Earth's 3 experimental fighters launched from their hidden mountain base, their advanced stealth technology making them invisible until they reached attack range. The orbital defense platform, thought destroyed by the Korthani, suddenly came online and began targeting enemy vessels. Maya watched the battle unfold on the tactical display, her mind processing dozens of variables simultaneously. The virus had worked better than expected, creating confusion in the Korthani ranks. Several enemy ships were firing on their own allies, their targeting systems corrupted by the malicious code. "Zephyrian vessels are engaging the enemy flanks," reported Major Williams. "They're reporting successful hits on multiple targets." "Our fighters have reached attack positions," added Lieutenant Chun. "Targeting Korthani command vessels." Maya studied the tactical situation, looking for the moment when victory would be assured or when they would need to implement their desperate fallback plans. The battle was going better than she had dared hope, but she knew the Korthani would adapt quickly once they realized they had been outmaneuvered. "Korthani command ship is attempting to re-establish communications," Dr. Patel warned. "If they purge their systems, they'll eliminate the virus." "Then we don't give them the chance," Maya replied. "All units, focus fire on the command ship." "Take it out now?" The combined firepower of human and Zephyrian forces converged on the massive Korthani command vessel. The ship's shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed the assault, but Maya could see them weakening under the sustained attack. "Direct hit on the command ship's communication array," reported Major Williams. "They're losing contact with their fleet." Maya allowed herself a small smile. Without central coordination, the Korthani invasion force would be reduced to individual ships acting on their own initiative. Some would fight to the death, others would retreat, but they would no longer represent an organized threat to Earth. "Signal all units to continue engagement," Maya ordered. "We're not done until every hostile vessel is destroyed or driven from the system." The battle continued for another 2 hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. One by one, Korthani vessels were either destroyed or fled beyond the solar system's edge. By the time the last enemy ship disappeared from the tactical display, Maya was slumping with exhaustion but feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "All Korthani vessels have been eliminated or driven from the system," General Morrison announced to cheers from the gathered personnel. "Earth is secure." Maya nodded wearily, then activated the communication system to send a message to Fleet Commander Thizes Ka. "This is Earth Command to Zephyrian Fleet. Thank you for your assistance. The debt of honor has been repaid with interest." The response came back in the melodic tones of formal Zephyrian. "It was our privilege to fight alongside the defenders of Earth. May your victories be remembered in the songs of our children." As the immediate crisis passed, Maya felt the familiar hollow sensation that came after every successful mission. They had saved the Earth, but at a cost that the general public would never know about. How many ships had been lost? How many brave pilots had died defending their homeworld? D on her shoulder. "You did it again. You saved us all. Maya looked at the tactical display, now showing the normal peaceful traffic of Earth's orbital space. In a few hours, she would have to return to Riverside High School and pretend to be a normal teenager again. She would sit through classes on physics and history, knowing that she had just made both subjects in ways her classmates couldn't imagine. But first, she needed to sleep. The galaxy was safe, at least for now, and Maya-chan had earned a few hours of rest before her next impossible mission. Surviving high school, 3 days after secretly saving Earth from alien invasion, Maya sat in the Riverside High cafeteria picking at her lunch and trying to act like a normal teenager. The official story was that she had been home with the flu, which explained her absence during the crisis that the public knew nothing about. Around her, students chatted about weekend plans and upcoming tests, blissfully unaware that they had come within hours of planetary annihilation. "You still look pretty rough," Jake observed, studying her face with concern. "Maybe you came back too soon?" Maya forced a smile. "Just tired. You know how it is when you're sick for a few days. Did you hear about those weird atmospheric disturbances they detected over the weekend?" Marcus asked excitedly, pulling out his phone to show a news article. "The government is calling them solar flare effects, but the patterns were way too organized for random solar activity." Maya's blood pressure spiked, but she kept her expression neutral. "Solar flares can be pretty unpredictable." "That's what they want us to think," Marcus continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But I've been tracking the data from multiple sources." The electromagnetic signatures were consistent with artificial sources, not natural phenomena. Zoe rolled her eyes. "Marcus, not everything is a conspiracy. Sometimes solar flares are just solar flares." "But what if they're not?" Marcus insisted. "What if something really did happen over the weekend? Something the government doesn't want us to know about?" Maya felt trapped between her desire to support Marcus's curiosity and her need to maintain operational security. The boy was remarkably perceptive, asking exactly the right questions and making connections that came uncomfortably close to the truth. "Even if something did happen," she said carefully, "maybe the government has good reasons for keeping it quiet. Maybe knowing the truth would cause more problems than it would solve." Emma looked up from her sketchbook with interest. "That's a surprisingly mature perspective for someone our age." Maya realized she had revealed too much of her military mindset. Normal teenagers didn't think about operational security and information management. They definitely didn't automatically side with government secrecy. "I just think there are some things that are bigger than what any one person needs to know," she said, trying to backtrack. "Like, maybe we should focus on the stuff we can actually affect." The conversation moved on to other topics, but Maya noticed Marcus watching her with a thoughtful expression. She had the uncomfortable feeling that she was becoming a puzzle he was determined to solve. After lunch, Maya headed to her locker to grab books for afternoon classes. As she spun the combination, her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Meet me in the old chemistry lab. We need to talk." "A friend." Maya's hand instinctively moved toward the concealed emergency transmitter she wore on her wrist, a habit from her military days. The message could be innocent, but her paranoia had kept her alive through multiple alien encounters. She texted back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "Someone who knows about the Corthony." Maya's world tilted. Someone at Riverside High School knew about classified alien species. Either her cover had been blown by someone with access to military intelligence, or there was another player in the game that she didn't know about. She made her way to the old chemistry lab, a room that had been abandoned after budget cuts forced the school to consolidate science facilities. Her mind raced through possibilities. Could it be a test from her handlers? A trap set by hostile aliens? Or something else entirely? The lab was empty when she arrived, filled with dusty equipment and the faint smell of old chemicals. Maya waited by the door, ready to run if necessary. After a few minutes, footsteps echoed in the hallway and Marcus Morrison stepped into the room. "Marcus?" Maya said, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same question," Marcus replied, closing the door behind him. "Except I already know the answer." You're Maya Chun, age 15, daughter of Dr. Sarah Chun and classified father. Military advisor specializing in xenological tactical analysis. Instrumental in the defeat of the Zephian Armada and the recent neutralization of the Korthani invasion fleet. Maya's hand was definitely on her emergency transmitter now. I don't know what you're talking about. My last name is Morrison, Marcus said with a slight smile. As in General Robert Morrison, commanding officer of the Joint Xenological Defense Initiative. My dad tells me things he probably shouldn't. The pieces clicked into place with devastating clarity. Marcus Morrison was the son of her commanding officer, a general who had access to the highest levels of classified information. And apparently, operational security in the Morrison household was somewhat lacking. Your dad told you about classified operations? Maya asked incredulously. Not directly, Marcus admitted. But he talks in his sleep when he's really stressed, and he's been really stressed lately. I heard him mentioning your name and something about Korthani battle tactics. It wasn't hard to put the pieces together once I started paying attention. Maya slumped against a lab table, feeling the weight of her double life crashing down on her. Marcus, you can't tell anyone about this? Not your friends, not your family, not anyone. The security protocols exist for a reason. I'm not going to tell anyone, Marcus said seriously. But I had to talk to you. Do you have any idea how hard it's been, sitting here listening to people dismiss everything as conspiracy theories when I know that something incredible actually happened? Maya studied Marcus's face, seeing her own frustration reflected there. He was dealing with the same sense of isolation that came from knowing too much about the hidden world that existed beyond normal human experience. It doesn't get easier, she said quietly. The secrets, the isolation, pretending to be someone you're not? I've been doing this for 3 years, and I still don't know how to balance it all. Is that why you seem so disconnected sometimes? Marcus asked. Like you're thinking about things that are way more important than high school drama? Maya nodded. How do you care about pop quizzes when you've seen entire star systems at war? How do you worry about dating when you've negotiated ceasefires between species that communicate through bioluminescence? They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, two teenagers sharing the burden of secrets too large for their age. There's something else, Marcus said eventually. I've been monitoring deep space communications using equipment I built in my garage. Totally illegal, by the way. But I've been picking up transmissions that suggest the Korthani invasion wasn't an isolated incident. Maya felt her stomach drop. What kind of transmissions? Coded communications between unknown parties discussing the Earth situation, an accelerated timeline for contact protocols. I think other alien species are taking notice of what happened here. Maya's tactical mind immediately began analyzing the implications. If the defeat of the Korthani had attracted attention from other galactic powers, Earth could be facing a much more complex situation than a simple invasion threat. I need to see those transmissions, she said. Can you get them to me without anyone knowing? Already burned to an encrypted drive, Marcus replied, pulling a small device from his backpack. I figured you might need them. Maya took the drive, feeling a mixture of gratitude and concern. Marcus was clearly intelligent and well-intentioned, but he was also a security risk. His unauthorized monitoring activities could compromise Earth's defensive preparations if the wrong people found out about them. Marcus, I need you to promise me something, she said seriously. No more illegal monitoring. No more investigating classified activities. What you've discovered could put you and your family in real danger. But what if there's another threat? What if... Then the people whose job it is to handle those threats will handle them, Maya interrupted. Your job is to be a normal teenager and let the adults worry about galactic politics. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Maya's expression stopped him. Okay, he said reluctantly. I'll back off. But if you need help with anything at all, I want you to know that you can trust me. Maya felt a warmth that she hadn't experienced since leaving the military environment. For the first time since starting high school, she had someone who understood at least part of her real life. Thank you, she said simply, for understanding and for keeping quiet about this. As they prepared to leave the abandoned lab, Maya's phone buzzed with an urgent message from Agent Richardson. New developments require immediate briefing. Report to facility ASAP. Maya sighed, knowing that her brief respite from crisis management was already over. Whatever Marcus had detected in his illegal monitoring activities was apparently just the beginning of a new and potentially more dangerous situation. I have to go, she told Mark. The emergency briefing revealed Maya's worst fears. The encrypted drive Marcus had given her contained communications between 3 different alien civilizations, all discussing the human anomaly and debating response protocols. According to Dr. Patel's analysis, Earth had become the center of a galactic political crisis. The defeat of the Korthani has essentially announced to the galaxy that humans are a significant military power, General Morrison explained, his face grave. Some species see us as potential allies. Others view us as a threat that needs to be contained. Maya studied the holographic display showing intercepted transmissions. The communications were encoded in multiple alien languages, but her years of xenological training allowed her to understand the basic concepts being discussed. 3 species were planning to make contact with Earth, but their intentions were vastly different. The Altarians want to establish formal diplomatic relations, Dr. Patel reported. They're impressed by our tactical capabilities and see potential for mutual benefit. The Nexari are more cautious, proposing a gradual introduction program spanning several decades. But the hegemony... He paused, his expression darkening. The hegemony views humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability. They're discussing preemptive containment measures. Maya felt a familiar chill. The hegemony was one of the most powerful military alliances in the known galaxy, controlling over 200 star systems. If they decided that humanity was a threat, Earth would face opposition that made the Korthani invasion look like a minor skirmish. Timeline? Maya asked, slipping back into her military mindset. Unknown, General Morrison replied. Could be months, could be weeks. The intercepted communications suggest that a galactic council session has been called to discuss the human question. Maya walked to the main tactical display, studying the positions of known alien civilizations and calculating potential approach vectors. Her mind automatically began formulating defensive strategies, but the sheer scale of the potential threat was overwhelming. We can't fight the entire galaxy, she said bluntly. If the hegemony decides we're a threat, our only option is to convince them otherwise. How do you propose we do that? Colonel Torres asked. Maya was quiet for a long moment, an audacious plan forming in her mind. It was dangerous, potentially catastrophic, but it might be their only chance to avoid a war that would destroy humanity. I go to the Galactic Council, she said finally. As Earth's official representative, I make the case for humanity directly to the species who are deciding our fate. The room erupted in protests. General Morrison stood up, shaking his head emphatically. Absolutely not. You're 15 years old, Maya. We can't send a child to represent Earth in galactic politics. I'm the only human who has successfully negotiated with multiple alien species, Maya replied calmly. I understand their cultural contexts, their military doctrines, their political structures. Most importantly, I'm the one who defeated the Korthani. My reputation gives me credibility that no adult diplomat could match. Dr. Patel leaned forward, intrigued despite the apparent insanity of the proposal. The psychological impact could be significant. A young human achieving what many species consider impossible would certainly make an impression. It's too dangerous, Agent Richardson protested. The Galactic Council meets in neutral space, but the journey alone would expose you to dozens of potential threats. And if the negotiations go badly? If the negotiations go badly, we're all dead anyway, Maya pointed out. At least this way, we have some chance of controlling our own fate. The debate continued for another hour, but Maya could see that her argument was gradually winning support. The military officials understood the strategic situation as well as she did. Earth's options were limited, and diplomatic contact was preferable to waiting for the galaxy to decide their fate without human input. There's another consideration, General Morrison said reluctantly. Marcus's monitoring activities have detected increased traffic on the deep space communication networks. Something big is happening in galactic politics, and it's happening soon. Maya nodded grimly. Which means we need to act fast. How quickly can we prepare a diplomatic mission to neutral space? With Zephyrian support, we could have you there in 2 weeks, Dr. Patel replied. Fleet Commander Thyziska has offered to provide escort vessels and diplomatic credentials. Then we do it, Maya decided. I'll go to the Galactic Council and make the case for humanity. It's our best chance to avoid a war we can't win. And the next week passed in a blur of preparation and intensive briefing sessions. Maya worked with xenological experts to refine her understanding of galactic politics, studied the cultural nuances of dozens of alien species, and practiced her arguments in multiple alien languages. The mission would require her to navigate some of the most complex political situations in known space, all while representing a species that most aliens still considered primitive. The most difficult conversation was with her mother. Dr. Sarah Chun listened to the classified briefing with growing alarm, her protective instincts warring with her understanding of the stakes involved. I can't lose you again, she said quietly, referring to the 3 years Maya had spent away from home during her military service. You're still my little girl, no matter what you've accomplished. I know, Maya replied, taking her mother's hand. But this is bigger than just our family. If I don't do this, there might not be a planet for me to come home to. Dr. Chun nodded reluctantly, tears in her eyes. Just promise me you'll be careful. The galaxy has already asked too much of you. The hardest part was maintaining her cover at school while preparing for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. Maya attended classes, completed assignments, and participated in the science fiction club, all while her mind was focused on strategies for convincing hostile aliens not to destroy Earth. Marcus proved invaluable during this period, providing both technical support and emotional understanding. His knowledge of alien communication protocols, combined with his insight into his father's military planning, made him an unofficial consultant on the diplomatic preparations. I still think you should take me with you, he said during one of their clandestine meetings in the abandoned chemistry lab. I know more about galactic politics than most adults. And I need you here, Maya replied. If something goes wrong with the mission, Earth will need people who understand what's really happening. You'll be my backup plan. The departure day arrived with surreal normalcy. Maya attended her morning classes at Riverside High, said goodbye to her friends without explaining why it felt so final, and then quietly left campus during lunch period. A few hours later, she was aboard a Zephyrian diplomatic vessel heading for neutral space and the most important meeting in human history. As Earth disappeared behind them, Maya felt the familiar mixture of excitement and terror that came with each new impossible mission. She was 15 years old, traveling to a galactic council to argue for humanity's right to exist as an independent species. The irony wasn't lost on her that she had learned to navigate alien politics more easily than high school social dynamics. The journey to the galactic council would take 5 days, giving Maya time to finalize her preparations and mentally prepare for negotiations that would determine the fate of her entire species. She had saved humanity twice already through military action. Now she would try to save them through diplomacy, using words instead of weapons to ensure that Earth remained free. As she settled into her quarters aboard the Zephyrian vessel, Maya reflected on how far she had come from the nervous teenager who had walked into Riverside High just a few weeks ago. High school drama seemed insignificant compared to galactic politics, but in a way both required the same skills: understanding people, building alliances, and finding ways to achieve your goals despite overwhelming opposition. She had defeated aliens in battle, but her greatest challenge still lay ahead. The fate of humanity would be decided not by firepower or tactical brilliance, but by her ability to convince the galaxy that Earth deserved a place among the stars. Maya Chen, 15-year-old diplomat and defender of worlds, was ready for whatever came next.